Evening, everybody. I do have a question, Mr. Mayor.
State your name for the record.
I'm sorry, Patrick Mynahan, resident. If we should ask you a question and the explanation is lengthy, does that go against our 5 minutes?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I see Mr. Caleri's not here. I do have some issues with what he said at the last council meeting. I'm sorry he's not here, but I have other things I want to discuss on Tuesday.
You can certainly address that
Yeah,
at the next
I'm going to
council.
email him too, because I don't want him, I want to make
fine.
sure he sees it.
No, that's fine.
So I believe that his report was nothing more than a chance to slander a resident. I stated this before when Councilman Wilson told me if I didn't like the way things are. I'm sorry that he's not here either. I hope he does feel better. Anyway, that I should move, he stated that a few months ago. We are the residents, those of us who get up here to speak before you, and we are not obligated to any of you in any way. The reverse, in my opinion, is not true. If there is a list of exceptions or a list of standards for a resident to ask questions before his or her council, regardless of the content or context, then I suggest Councilman Caleri present it. I wasn't aware that only people who agree with his politics or those that he judges to be members in good standing were permitted to ask questions. I want to say something about my friend John Yakum. The Yakum family has a long history of residence and service in this community, whether it was through this government or their church. I don't know exactly how long they've lived here, but I do know it's longer than my family, and mine's been here a shade under 43 years. John has serious questions and concerns about his town, whether anyone agrees with them or not, and like every other resident, he has the right to present them to his council. Councilman Caleri did the very same thing all last year, and I never once heard any council member belittle him in these chambers before an audience here at home, or online. He said John was asking antagonistic questions, and that's his opinion. I call it the pot calling the kettle black, since he did the same thing, and I consider some of his comments to Mrs. McKinney last year very rude and antagonistic. However, even though I disagreed with what he said, or any resident, whether I agree with them or not, I never once questioned their right to present their concerns to council. Had any council member said to him what he said to John last month, I would have the same criticism for them. I don't care who sits in these chairs, every resident has a fundamental right to express themselves up here, whether anyone agrees or disagrees with their statements, questions, or complaints. The people who know me well and have seen the meeting of Councilman Wilson telling me to move have all made the same statement. They can't believe that I kept my mouth shut. And I told all of them the same thing I'm going to tell all you. Number one, I did so, number one, because the mayor immediately admonished Councilman Wilson, and I did appreciate that, by the way. And more importantly, I was not going to go against my own principles, which is I have respect for this process and these chambers. I believe everyone has our First Amendment rights to speech, but I don't agree with residents verbally attacking other residents, and I especially don't agree with an elected or appointed official publicly demeaning a resident. Mr. Caleri crossed the line. I stand by my friend John, and I do so willingly. Politically, we couldn't be farther apart. He's a far-right conservative Republican, and I'm a moderate Democrat. We do not agree on many things except for what is happening in our hometown. Many of you have insinuated, not you, other people, have insinuated that there is an agenda at play or we have ulterior motives. I don't speak for John, however, I can tell you we share a common goal and my only agenda in regards to Monroeville politics, my continuing search for the truth. My goal is to have people held accountable for a constant breach of personal privacy, and Stephen Pasquarello and Lynette McKinney are not these people. I will not stop until I'm satisfied that this is done, and I'm confident John is going to finish the battle with me. We share the same belief that as constituents, residents, and taxpayers, we are obligated to scrutinize our forms of government and hold our elected officials to a high standard. John and I also share other character traits such as we don't back down and we stand up for what we believe in, even at the high cost of our beliefs. I don't know about John, but I lost a lot of friends over this. It didn't just affect Chief Cole's life, it affected all of us. I'll keep fighting, and I'm not going to stop until this is settled in a manner agreeable to my morals, principles, and values. On another note, Councilman Wilson did state that he wished some of us would come here and offer something positive, and I'm here to do that. At last night's Citizens Night meeting, during a break, Councilwoman Gatos approached me, and we had a very nice conversation. We didn't come to any agreements, but we still had a very nice, very friendly conversation where both of us heard the other's issues. I greatly appreciated her willingness to search me out and approach me. 2 months ago at a council meeting, Councilwoman Gatos didn't hesitate to apologize to me publicly after I felt she slighted me publicly. And again, I greatly appreciated it. Last month, Manager Little and Linda Gatos did make the attempt to answer John's questions or make arrangements to meet with him. John stated he wanted it on the public record, but it was the gesture that impressed me. In our view, finally, two of our elected officials didn't dismiss us or ignore us. In my opinion, it was a step in the right direction, and I greatly appreciate what you said earlier, sir, to have our questions. If you can't answer them, I understand there are some legal barriers that you can't do it, but if you could answer some questions, I greatly appreciate it. Confrontation does not have to be contentious. Within these chambers, they should always be held with dignity. I'm not saying it should be a circus either, but I will say that this public forum is the place for questions to be asked and answers to be given. Despite others' insistence that this is not the place for debate, I wholeheartedly disagree. Having only 2 chances a month to appear before you all, when and where is the place for debate? I'm going to leave some of this for Tuesday. The only other thing I would like to point out is John's going to be furious because he did ask me not to say anything about this. He told me that there are bigger issues to discuss than what happened with Councilman Kalari. I feel that as a resident, I don't want any council person to criticize any resident regardless of their beliefs, and I felt that this was important to talk about tonight. So sorry, John. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.